Well, the days off are over and we're back to the routine. Welcome to this corner of sarcasm where today we're going to break down the art of institutionalized lying. That national sport which, in this 6-year term, has already reached Olympic medal levels. The second story of the transformation comes with everything except honesty. Here, we don't buy the story that we live in Denmark, much less that the disappearances in this country are just clerical errors or biased reports. What we'll see today won't appear at the morning press conference or on the channels of those who profit from others' well-being. Let's get to it. It's fascinating to see the structure of official discourse. Indeed, we didn't live in the paradise of Denmark, nor are we living in it now, even if they swear it on the Virgin Mary. And we can certainly go over Genaro Garcia Luna's file 1,000 times, that favorite character of the current narrative. But we don't stop. The machinery of resentment is ambitious. If today's reality is biting at our heels, the solution is easy. We just have to defame the past. Let's pull out the album of the usual villains: Fox, Salinas, Calderon, and Peña. All of them are to blame for Mexico continuing to sink today. And if that's not enough, we can always go further back. Why stop at neoliberalism when we can blame Porfirio Diaz? In fact, let's go all the way back to the colonial era. Let's curse the members of Cortez's expedition for having the audacity to ally with the Tlaxcalans to conquer us. The mobsters of the Fourth Transformation, those profiteers of belligerence, need a daily enemy to have for breakfast. When a citizen, one of those who still have the audacity to think, asks them to answer for a disaster, the response is automatic. It wasn't us. The example of the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico is a gem of dark comedy. A 600-kilometer oil slick that ruined the lives of thousands of fishermen? Please, that wasn't Pemex. It was a mysterious ship. A ship that, coincidentally, was hired during Peña Nieto's administration. Of course. Or maybe it was one of the 13 ships that happened to be passing by. The official response was so quick that while they were drafting their denial, the oil was already suffocating the coast. But my favorite part, the cherry on top of institutional realism, is the handling of the image crisis. Like when a citizen records an employee of the National Palace, completely unconcerned, sunbathing frivolously in one of the windows of the historic building. In any country with a gram of decency, you come out, explain, apologize, and move on. But not in the kingdom of post-truth. Here, the official propaganda commissars came out with a straight face and said the scene was fake, that it had been fabricated with artificial intelligence. What a new low. By that logic, we shouldn't be surprised if they say that inflation is a hologram and the security crisis is an augmented reality video game. They do the same with the UN report on enforced disappearances. Crimes against humanity? No, gentlemen of the United Nations, you don't understand our sovereignty. Your data is from another time. Do you remember when they told us there were no more massacres? Or when they swore violence was going down because they were handing out scholarships? Well, it turns out that reality, that stubborn enemy of the regime, has once again hit them so hard that even the intellectuals of the transformation lost track of the script. We've spent months, maybe years, warning that this government has a pathological fixation with numbers, but not to solve them, just to hide them. They wanted to confuse the public with a hegemonic narrative where nothing happens here, where we're all happy. But the UN Committee on Enforced Disappearances just gave them a slap of reality that not even all the morning press conferences in the world can explain. It's an act of unprecedented moral baseness. They're absolute wretches. It wasn't enough for them that families have to go out with pick and shovel to look for their children because the state is too busy inaugurating trains that derail. Now they also want to remove them from the country's records. The strategy was clear. If we don't count them, they don't exist. But the UN sided with the thousands of families who pointed out the omission, the disregard, and the systematic effort to make the tragedy invisible. In less than a year, we went from an average of 33 to 40 disappearances per day. Mexico has now surpassed 132,000 missing persons, according to the National Search Commission. And what does our brand new servile scientist who promised data and rigor have to say? Well, the same as always, it's biased. Of course, for the regime, anything that isn't canned applause is biased. If reality doesn't fit their other data, they simply ignore it. What hurts them the most, what leaves them stinging even after all their speeches about sovereignty, is that the UN report not only exposed their incompetence, but something much darker, their complicity. They've spent years profiting politically from the image of Felipe Calderón, whether it's about the war, the crackdown, or him stealing the elections. But today, international data confirms what their arrogance doesn't let them see. Calderón's security strategy, with all its ups and downs, contained the violence. Under the protection of the impunity guaranteed by the jackass from Macuspana, the cartels have unleashed a bloodbath that would make any horror movie look like a Disney story. Today, criminals not only have territorial control, they have the blessing of Mexican humanism, which allows them to operate while families cry in front of clandestine graves that the government refuses to recognize as such. It took them more than a year to release the numbers. Why? Because they knew they were putting makeup on a corpse. They knew the UN was going to bring down their charade. Now they can no longer blame the past. They can't blame what they inherited when they've spent more than 6 years digging the hole deeper. There is a direct responsibility here. What we're experiencing is a crime against humanity. Handing over the country to the official sponsors of their movement, those who operate in the shadows but control the ballots, has a cost in human lives that can't be paid with public apologies. López Obrador should be preparing his defense, not his memoirs in La Chingada. The International Criminal Court, the very institution where they dreamed of seeing Calderón, is the one that should now be analyzing this as a deliberate omission and a policy of non-intervention. It became the driving force behind the greatest humanitarian tragedy in modern Mexican history. Beyond the jokes and the tricks, reality is stubborn. The economy isn't growing, the disappeared number in the thousands, even if they're erased from the list with the eraser of impunity. Femicides continue to be the shadow that haunts women. And as for the healthcare system, well, the healthcare system is a disaster that can't be fixed with little holy cards. What can be done in the face of this situation? The official playbook's answer is simple: lie. And in that, you have to admit they're professionals. They spend their time managing chaos while selling us a mirage of nationalist glory. That's how things are, dear discerning audience. The report is there, the missing are still absent from home, and the guilty keep getting paid. The lists are erased, the number of missing people keeps growing, the system is full of tricks, and reality is stubborn. They try to erase them with tricks. The UN is an instrument of neoliberalism, and they keep ignoring the smell of pain and death that comes from their security strategy. I say goodbye, but not before reminding you that in this country, the only thing that's not a lie is that they keep making fools of us. Well, you already know what. The truth simply is, and this government has been left exposed by the truth, with its hands stained by criminal negligence. What do you think? Remember that you can make your donations via PayPal. You can find the information in the comments section. Thanks to you, this channel remains active. It's very important to subscribe, like, and press the bell to receive notifications whenever there's new content. Thank you.